Hey y'all, today we are making canned black beans. This is my husband's favorite brand of store beans, or it was until I started making beans for him. And now I make my own canned beans, and I will show you how I do that today. This is my shortcut version because we are planning a camping trip, and I just realized I don't have any beans on the shelf, so I don't even have a beautiful jar of them to show you. So you'll have to see them when they're done. But I did realize we don't have any already canned, and I want those done. So I'm doing the shortcut version. I'm going to take you along so you can see how that's done. I start out, of course, with clean jars. These jars have been used. They're in storage, and these lids are just clean, used lids that I replace on it to keep the jars clean. But of course, I'm not going to use those lids for recanning. I just save them for storage. I do have fresh, clean lids here for canning these beans. And I'm just doing a small batch here today, so I'm going to show you how I do it, and I do it straight from dry. I do not parboil them. I don't soak them. You can do that, and some people will say there are reasons to do that. I find that they turn out just fine the way that we cook them this way. And typically today I'm going to use a powder, which is a ham powder. As you can see, I'm cheating. This is a ham powder. When I first started preserving things, I didn't realize there was so much more that I could make myself, like ham granules. I can make this ham flavoring myself now with the dehydrator, but I didn't know that before, so I bought it. And so this, we're going to not use it up, but we're going to use some of what this is left. So although it's not the healthiest, that's what we're making today. So I start out with half a cup of dry black beans, and these are turtle beans. I don't really need the measurer because there are measurements on the side here. So we're just gonna measure out a half a cup of these. Now I've already picked through these to make sure there's not any rocks or anything like that before I even put them in this cup. But you do want to check it, make sure you don't have any rocks in there, no dirt, no debris, anything like that you don't want in there. Let me put on my reader so I can make sure I've got to the right amount. So I just fill the jars to about a half of a cup. You can measure it if you want to. And you don't want to fill it much more than that because they're going to swell a lot. This whole jar will be full when we get done. They swell a lot more than you think they do. I'm just going to put a half a cup. Don't seem like a lot, does it? You can do these in bigger batches, but I just like this little batch. And then I've got some home dehydrated yellow onions here. So I'm going to put in, I'd say, a half a tablespoon or maybe a tablespoon. This is good if you want it, and you can omit it if you don't want it. There's no wrong or right here. Now, if I was using my own homemade broth, this would already have all this cooked into it because, you know, you cook that in when you're making the broth. This is garlic. This is dehydrated garlic, and I'm going to put about a half a teaspoon in here of dehydrated garlic. So if you were doing garlic powder, I'd say maybe a fourth of a teaspoon. And if you're going to do dehydrated granules, maybe a half a teaspoon. But really, can you go wrong with garlic? My husband loves garlic, so that's not a problem. And then this is my powder, a cheat, and I'm going to put in a half of a teaspoon of this. I have the wrong measurement here. That's a whole teaspoon. I could eyeball it, but since I'm videoing, I'll do it. So I'm going to put a half a teaspoon. Now, normally you would want to put salt in here, but this is loaded with salt pretty much. That's mostly what it is. So I'm just going to put half a teaspoon. And of course, if we were making this with ham broth that I had made, we would make sure that this was filled with that broth. And instead, we're just going to put water in it because we don't have any broth. We're just kind of doing our own broth today. And you want to go, so we're just going to, the broth is going to be made in the jar. like I said, this is the cheat version, the quick version. And so we go to 1 inch headspace. So that's this band right here. And then we're gonna tighten, make sure that this is clean and dry. We don't have any fat or grease involved today, so I don't need to use vinegar to clean these off. I just wanna make sure that there's no little bits of that powder on there or anything like that. We just wanna go finger tight. And then I'm gonna do that for each of these jars. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is that I have beautiful, lovely, very tasty well water. So I just go right out of the tap. If you don't, you might want to use filtered water. If you have, chlorinated city water or something like that, you want to use some water that has not have a yucky taste to it. Everything you put in the jar is going to be concentrated flavor, tasting when you get it out. So you don't want to add any chlorine type water to it. So we're just going finger tight here. And now we will bring it over to the canner. Okay, y'all, so there's something to be explained here. I have an Instant Pot. This isn't just an Instant Pot. This is an Instant Pot Max. In this, I can can 4 pint-size jars at a time. And like I said, we're just doing a small batch today. Of course, if I wanted to do more of this, I would do a big batch in my big canner. But in this case, especially since I'm using that powder stuff, I'd rather just go ahead and do a small batch and just make what I need right now, and then just do a big canning day later. But for right now, I just want to make sure, now they do have Nesco, I think, and maybe Presto has instant canners, but this is an actual Instant Pot Max, so you are able to can in this. So I have my insert in it, of course. And I put my 4 jars in. And you can see I cheated here. I wrote on here that for pressure canning equals 6 cups of water so that I would get the level right, because I don't do it often enough in this machine to remember, and I had to look it up every single time, so I just wrote it on the front so I wouldn't forget. Now everything I'm adding is room temperature, because this will bring it all up to temperature as it needs to, and I won't have to do anything with it other than that. Obviously these directions would be different if I was canning in an actual pressure canner. So on this one it's preset. I've already set where I live for the if you were in the mountains or something, you'd have a different pressure. So I've already set that, and it's locked. And then this is a preheat section, and then this is when it'll actually can, and then it will cool down. So I don't have to do anything else. I come back in a couple hours and it's canned. And let's see what they look like. So my pressure canner had reset itself because it's been long enough that the pressure was released naturally. And then we just want to take these out. Beautiful. And that's bubbling, so I know it's going to be a good one. I always worry when they're not bubbling, because then I don't think that the seal isn't going to take. And it's bubbling. Bubbles. I don't think we got very much siphoning. There they sit till tomorrow.